I want to get a little bit into those who say, okay, what's relevant for certification here? Before we get into that, can we kind of maybe just, because the PMBOK is actually split into two segments, right?
Correct.
What are the two segments?
The first one is the standard. That is the ANSI standard. This I think like 75 pages.
Yeah.
This is the American, US ANSI standard for project management, and only that
If
part.
you're not American, can you ignore it?
You can try it at your own peril, I guess.
So yes, it's an ANSI, and it has to be written in a certain way to be an ANSI standard, but it's relevant. Thank you. And I said this as a European American.
That is essentially the core of the whole thing. And then there's a second part,
this one
the
right here.
guide to the project management book of knowledge. It says, I want to stress it, the guide to the project management body of knowledge, not the body of knowledge itself.
That's a principle that's been established from the very, very beginning. The PMBOK is the overall, how do you say that in English? The overall, what's out there in the mental sphere, right? And it's not all written down, or maybe it's written down in multiple volumes. The PMBOK guide is a
summary, an overview. Whatever you want. And then that is then another, I think, 150 pages, give or take, something like this. And so this is the layer, if you look at it like an onion.
Yeah.
Basically, the standard is the core of the onion, the inner part, and then the guide is basically the layer around that one, and then there are further layers with additional practice guides, for example, and what have you.
Yeah. What I like is this right here. This is the famous page from most of the PMBOKs, right? I like the fact that it's revised. I like the fact that it's leaner. The performance domains. This is one that jumped in my face, which I thought was funny because when I was reviewing what changed from PMBOK to PMBOK, one thing that it was always eternally growing, and it's a word that is magical. And I don't think most people cognitively really understand the weight of what it means, is the word integration. How important it is. My analogy that I use is, I always say that project managers are like Chinese plate jugglers. You know those plates that are on sticks and you have to like spin it, and then one starts wobbling and you go back, and it's kind of you like managing all different stakeholders and processes. I think that's kind of what the orchestra, a dirigent, a conductor would be a good example of integration. What happened to my shock, and I heard it when you presented the difference, is the word's gone. It's called governance. Why? Why that?
I may say my thoughts about it. So first of all, the topic of integration is a very abstract concept as a term.
Yeah, I think it didn't sink in with most people.
Possibly to native English-speaking people, but for instance, you are, but we are not, for instance. So it might be even more difficult to understand the meaning of integration as such, independent from the use here in the PMBOK. And having that term there might have meant this is what you may do, or a bit more or a bit less, or maybe even not at all, or just informally, right? Which doesn't make too much sense, because integration is it's a systemic action that you take, right?
It's a powerful concept, yes.
Yeah.
But I would agree. I think people kind of felt it, but what the full potential scope of integration was.
It's a bit like this idea of everything and bring it into a cohesive whole, right? And the term for that was integration management, but actually it's bringing it into a cohesive whole. And governance is a term that is also doing the same, yeah. But possibly it gives this idea it's a big thing.